My fiancée told me the rash was from a waxing table. Said it was just a skin thing. Happens after lasers. I believed her, until I found a prescription in her gym bag. Filled 2 weeks before we slept together. So I booked a doctor's appointment. Got tested. Then invited her parents over the night before the wedding. And let the results speak for themselves. It started with something small, barely a flicker of discomfort, but strange enough that I remembered it days later. We were a week out from the wedding. Everything was chaotic and scheduled to the minute. Dress fittings, vendor calls, cake tasting, her hair trial, my final suit fitting. It felt like we were rehearsing for a performance, not building a future. And for the most part, it was going smoothly, until that one moment. I came home early from work that day. A meeting had been canceled, and I thought I'd surprise her with her favorite takeout. She didn't hear me come in, so I just walked through the apartment quietly, following the sound of rustling fabric and drawers opening in the bedroom. She was standing near the closet, in a tank top and underwear, trying to find a missing shoe. I caught just a glimpse of it, barely a second, but it stopped me. A blotchy red rash high on her inner thigh, fading out toward her hip. It looked angry, irritated, like it had been scratched raw. She noticed me almost immediately and pulled her clothes over it so fast it was as if her skin had burned. The smile she gave me afterward didn't reach her eyes. She said something casual about lasers or waxing, some excuse about irritation from a salon visit. Then she waved it off, clearly eager to move on to something else. I didn't push. There was no confrontation, no suspicion out loud. But something felt off. It wasn't the mark itself. It was her reaction. The way her shoulders tightened. The way she shut the drawer harder than necessary. The way she changed the subject like a magician snapping fingers to distract from the trick. Later that night, while we were watching a movie, she kept glancing at her phone. Subtle flicks of her eyes, the kind people do when they think they're being casual. Every time it buzzed, her fingers tensed, then hovered before unlocking it with her thumb hidden just out of my line of sight. Once or twice, she typed something, then immediately locked the screen. Not replying, just closing the conversation. When I asked if it was her sister, she nodded too fast. Said they were planning the bachelorette spa night. But she looked down as she said it, like she needed to make sure I believed it before she did. I didn't press. Again, I told myself I was overthinking. Maybe it was just nerves. But the tension didn't go away. The next day, she was quieter than usual. Distracted. Claimed it was the pressure of wedding planning. Said she had to run errands alone. Something about meeting a florist in person who wasn't responding over text. She left mid-morning. I stayed home to take a few calls and wrap up work. Around noon, her sister called about the final headcount for the spa. I mentioned the text from the night before, how excited she seemed, and the voice on the other end hesitated. She said they hadn't spoken since the weekend. I didn't respond right away. My first instinct was to excuse it. Maybe she was talking to a different friend. Maybe she'd meant someone else. Maybe it wasn't anything at all. But the timing, it didn't sit right. That night, around 2:45 a.m., I woke up. The bed beside me was empty. I figured maybe she went to get water or check something. Then I saw the glow from the bathroom, lights slipping out under the door. I heard the soft taps of fingers on glass. When she came back, she brought her phone with her, screen still lit. I pretended to be half asleep. She didn't say anything, just slipped back under the covers too quickly, like someone who wanted to avoid conversation altogether. The next morning, I woke up alone. She left early, said she had a long day of final tasks. I wandered around the apartment, trying not to spiral, but my brain wouldn't let it go. I wasn't paranoid by nature. I wasn't the kind of person who checked phones or doubted every move. But something had shifted. The way she looked at me had changed, almost like she was waiting for something to happen, or maybe dreading it. And yet, I told myself again and again, if there was really something going on, would she still be here? Would she still be posting pictures of her dress fittings? Would she be calling venues and laughing with her mom about flower colors? Still, I couldn't forget that look. Not the rash. Not the moment she yanked her underwear back up and forced a laugh that never reached her eyes. At that point, I didn't know what I was searching for. But I had this sense, this instinct, that the surface of our life, perfect, polished, ready for vows, was just that, surface. Something had slipped beneath, and I wasn't sure yet what it was. All I knew was that I'd seen something I wasn't supposed to, and that she had covered it up too fast for it to be nothing. When I found her gym bag later that evening, I wasn't snooping. I was moving it so I could vacuum under the hallway bench. But something inside it shifted when I picked it up. A soft, papery crackle. And that's when everything started to unravel. The sound that caught my attention wasn't loud, just the soft crinkle of a receipt folding inside a zipper pocket. I held the gym bag in one hand, mid-step toward the closet, but something about that little noise stopped me. I set the bag down, unzipped the side pouch, and found a crumpled paper with faint blue ink and a thin line of faded highlighter across the top. It was a pharmacy slip. At first glance, it looked like a standard receipt. Then I saw the medication names. One I recognized immediately, a cream commonly prescribed for certain infections. The second was an antibiotic, the type used in cases where symptoms were internal and needed more aggressive treatment. The patient name wasn't hers. Not exactly. It was a shortened nickname, one her college friends used, the kind she'd never told her parents or coworkers. I'd only heard it a few times when an old friend from school tagged her in photos. Seeing it in print on something medical felt strange. It looked like she was trying to obscure the connection. My mind kicked into motion, lining up the dates. The prescription had been filled almost 3 weeks ago, a full 2 weeks before we last slept together. The dates weren't vague or flexible. They were printed in bold above the medication list, along with the refill indicator. That detail hit me harder than the rest. This wasn't a one-time prescription. She'd refilled it. The bottle must have been somewhere else, maybe in the bathroom cabinet or already discarded. But the receipt had been forgotten, jammed into a pouch with lip balm, an old mascara wand, and a half-eaten granola bar. Carelessness, not guilt, had brought it into my hands. I stood there for minutes, the bag half open at my feet, the papers still between my fingers. She wasn't home. She was out meeting her mother at a bakery for cake tasting. I'd been invited, but declined, blaming work. Now I was grateful for the excuse. I didn't confront her when she came back. I didn't mention the receipt or the medication. I watched her walk through the door, humming along to a song from the car. She looked happy, normal, asked about my day, and offered me a bite of the lemon cake sample. Everything was casual, like nothing was unraveling in the background. That night, I couldn't sleep. The numbers kept circling in my head. Prescription date, refill date, the day we were last intimate, the week she told me she was tired and needed space. The sequence was too tight to dismiss. I pulled up her social media and scrolled back to the week of the prescription. That was the weekend she said she was going to visit her grandmother. She had posted a photo of a cup of tea and a blurry picture of a blanket with the caption, "Lazy day, catching up on books." But the metadata told a different story. The location tag wasn't her grandmother's rural town. It was a hotel in the city. A chain hotel, not even remotely close to the place she claimed to be. A 20-minute drive from our apartment. I clicked deeper, looking at other posts. Another photo from that same weekend, a room service tray. She had cropped out the tray number, but not the placemat. The logo was unmistakable. She had lied about where she was. Not once, but with layered precision, carefully selecting neutral content, filtering the details, and covering tracks just enough to seem boringly believable. I started spiraling. If she'd lied about where she'd been, what else had been staged? How many more weekends had she been with her mom, or at the bridal boutique? And why take medication for something so specific if there was nothing to hide? I needed more than suspicion. I needed certainty. Something concrete. Something irrefutable. I knew I couldn't rely on her to tell the truth, not now. And I couldn't just sit in that apartment, pretending everything was fine while second-guessing every moment of the past 6 months. So the next morning, I booked a full panel test at a private clinic. I didn't tell her. I didn't mention the receipt, the hotel, or the lie. I just kissed her on the cheek before leaving for work, told her I'd be late that night, and walked out the door with the same smile I'd worn every other morning. At the clinic, I answered the nurse's questions. I told them I was asymptomatic but wanted a full screen. I didn't give reasons. I didn't need to. They took samples. Blood, urine, a few swabs. I signed the forms and walked out into the daylight, heart thudding like I'd just handed someone a bomb with no idea how long the fuse was. The waiting was unbearable. I tried not to check my phone every 10 minutes. I tried to work, to focus, to remind myself that this might still turn out to be a misunderstanding. But that quiet voice inside me, the one that noticed how fast she covered the rash, how she locked her phone, how she lied about her sister, it didn't believe in coincidence anymore. That evening, when I got home, she was already in bed. She'd lit a candle and turned the lights low, made it look romantic. She said she missed me. Her hand brushed mine under the sheets. I looked at her and saw the woman I was supposed to marry in 6 days, the one I'd imagined a future with, the one who had built a careful reality around comfort, routine, and subtle distance. But all I could think about was the receipt in my drawer and the call I was waiting on. She leaned in to kiss me. I pulled back and said I was exhausted. She smiled, whispered something soft, and turned over. Her phone buzzed once on the nightstand. She didn't check it, but I saw the notification. A name I didn't recognize. A message preview that said, "Missed seeing you today." The call came mid-morning. I was in the middle of typing an email when the clinic number flashed across my screen. My stomach dropped before I even answered. There was a tightness in my throat I hadn't felt since I was a kid waiting for test results I'd lied to my parents about. The nurse's tone was professional but careful. She didn't sound shocked, Just firm, clear, as if she'd said this 1,000 times. My results were in. I had tested positive. Nothing life-threatening, but unmistakable. The exact same condition that matched the medication on the pharmacy receipt. Confirmed. I didn't say much. Just asked her to email me the official documentation. I thanked her and hung up, staring at the blinking cursor on my screen for a long time. There was no more speculation. No more benefit of the doubt. No more maybe. She had given me an infection. One that required a prescription. One that had a specific transmission path. It wasn't just betrayal, it was biological. That should have been the moment I lost it. I should have shouted or packed a bag or called her on the spot. But something colder settled in instead. A kind of clarity I hadn't felt in days. The decisions lined themselves up. One by one. I didn't need to guess anymore. I didn't need to ask her anything. I had what I needed. I printed the lab results, carefully folded them, and placed them in an envelope. Then I printed the pharmacy slip I had photographed from her gym bag and added it to the same packet. 2 sheets of paper. Enough to rewrite the narrative of our engagement in 10 seconds. Still, I didn't mention anything that night. She was in a good mood, too good. She was dancing around the kitchen while making dinner, wine glass in hand, humming some throwback from college that I didn't recognize. She told me how her mom had cried at the cake tasting, how her dad couldn't stop smiling when he saw the guest list printed out. She said it was all coming together, exactly how she'd dreamed. The timing of it all made me nauseous. I nodded, smiled, played along, and while she was showering, I texted her parents. I told them I wanted to have a quiet dinner with just the 3 of us the night before the wedding. No bridal party, no friends, just family. I said it was important. Her mother replied almost instantly. Said they'd love to. That they were honored. That it meant a lot to them. It was strange how easy the lie came to me. Not just what I said, but how natural I made it sound. Like I believed it. Like I wasn't about to drop a match on everything they'd helped build for the last year. The following day, I stayed home from work and made preparations. Not dramatic ones. Just small, meticulous details. I cleared the dining table. Polished the wine glasses. Chose a bottle of red her dad liked. Cooked something comforting but simple. Something that wouldn't seem like a setup. She didn't know about any of it. I told her I was cleaning the place before our honeymoon. She believed it, thanked me, and left to meet with the stylist for her final hair trial. Her day was packed. Her texts were light, full of countdowns and heart emojis. It was surreal to read those while staring at lab results on the coffee table. That evening, when her parents arrived, they came with flowers. Her mom hugged me tightly, beaming, telling me how proud she was of the man I'd become. Her dad clapped me on the back, said I'd been steady from the start. Solid. Good to their daughter. I nodded, said I was grateful, asked them to sit down. She wasn't home yet. She thought we were all meeting at the restaurant. That's when I slid the envelope across the table. They were still smiling as her mother opened it, clearly thinking it was something sentimental. Maybe a letter. A surprise note. A thank you. But her smile fell almost immediately. She scanned the paper once. Then again. Her eyes paused on the test result, then flicked over to the second page. The prescription slip with her daughter's nickname printed neatly at the top. Her breath caught. Her husband leaned over to read. His brow furrowed. He looked at me, then at his wife, then back at the papers. He asked what this meant. Not with anger, just confusion. Like he was trying to catch up to a joke he hadn't been in on. I told them the truth. The dates. The infection. The prescription that had been refilled. I explained that she had lied about where she was, what she was doing, and who she had been with. I said nothing else. No emotion. Just facts. Quiet, flat delivery. Her father's hands slowly curled into fists against the table. Her mother sat perfectly still, the envelope now limp between her fingers. That's when the front door opened. She walked in laughing, keys jingling, calling out something cheerful about the weather or traffic, until she saw them sitting there, faces blank, papers spread across the table. Her smile didn't fade immediately. It held for a second too long, like her brain hadn't quite caught up yet. Then she saw the lab result, and her face dropped. She stood frozen in the entryway, her keys still in one hand, shopping bag dangling from the other. The smile that had followed her in was gone. Her eyes darted between her mother, her father, and me, then to the papers on the table, then back again. Her face was pale, but not from confusion. She understood instantly. The air shifted. That soft, harmless domestic warmth cracked and dropped into silence. No one moved. Her mother was still holding the envelope, gripping it now with stiff fingers. Her father looked like he hadn't blinked since she walked in. She finally spoke, low, defensive, unsure. The words weren't denial. They weren't even coherent. Just a spill of disconnected phrases trying to cover too much at once. The tone didn't match the room. It sounded more like someone caught texting in class than someone confronted with medical evidence in front of their future in-laws. Her mother asked a question, not with anger, but disbelief. The kind of voice someone uses when they already know the answer but want to be proven wrong. She didn't answer it. Instead, she turned to me, her expression shifting quickly, trying to summon intimacy or control or both. She said something about how this wasn't the way to handle it. I didn't respond. I didn't look at her. Her father asked her again, louder this time. Still sitting. Still calm. But now with weight in his voice. That's when she panicked. She said it wasn't what it looked like. That the prescription had been for a precaution. That it wasn't serious. That people overreact to these things. She moved quickly, reaching for the paper as if taking it back would undo what had already been exposed. Her mother pulled it away. Said something sharp, still quiet, but final. Her defenses crumbled fast after that. She shifted from excuse to self-pity. She said the stress had gotten to her. That she'd made a mistake. That it wasn't emotional. Just physical. Just a weak moment she regretted. That it had happened before we were fully committed. Even though the prescription date said otherwise. Then she tried something else. Something colder. She turned back to me and said if I had concerns, I should have come to her directly. Not created a scene. Not ambushed her with her own parents. She said this like it gave her the moral high ground. Like being exposed medically wasn't the actual problem, just the presentation of it. Her father stood up. He didn't yell. Didn't raise his hand. But his silence felt heavier than any words. He looked at her the way you look at a stranger. Then he turned to me and asked if this had just happened. I nodded. He asked one more thing, whether I had spoken to anyone else about it. I said no. He looked relieved and disgusted at the same time. Her mother was crying now. Silent tears, no sound. She said her daughter had always been impulsive. But this was something else. This wasn't just a bad decision. This was cruelty. I finally stood, walked to the kitchen, took the ring from the drawer, the one I had bought 2 years ago after saving through side work and extra projects. I placed it on the dining table, just to the left of her wine glass, the one she'd left from the night before. I told her I wouldn't be attending the wedding. I told her the venue had been canceled earlier that morning and the photographer refunded. She looked stunned, genuinely shocked, as if she hadn't considered this would be the outcome. As if she had expected some explosion, some shouting match, some dramatic outburst. But there was none. Just her parents, a test result, and a very silent room. Her father sat back down and picked up the envelope again. Looked at it one more time. Then he looked at her and told her she needed to leave. Not from the apartment, he meant the room. He said they weren't finished speaking, but that she wasn't going to be part of this conversation. She protested. She begged. She said it was a misunderstanding. That we could fix it. That people make mistakes. That love means forgiving. But no one replied. She left the room in tears, half tripping over her own bag on the way out. Her father stayed a few minutes longer. He apologized for what had happened. Not on her behalf. Just quietly. As a man who had helped plan a wedding he now regretted. He asked if I needed help canceling anything else. I told him I had it handled. When they left, the door clicked shut without a word. I stood in the silence for a while. Not angry. Not sad. Just quiet. The table was still set for dinner. The food had gone cold. Her wine glass sat untouched. The papers were gone. I didn't sleep in that apartment that night. I took my overnight bag and drove to a small hotel near the edge of town. The same chain I'd seen tagged in her photo weeks before. I checked in, turned off my phone, sat on the edge of the bed and thought about the quietest moments of the last few weeks. The little silences that had carried meaning I hadn't understood. And now, finally, I did. And that's the story. If you're still here, that means you're one of us. So go ahead, hit that subscribe button. I drop new chaos every single day, and trust me, tomorrow's story, it's even worse than this one.